Now, where was the human element here? The Chinese mistake then? Well, the Kazakh arrests. They were unnecessary. We know this because in several towns, nearly 100% Kazakh, the re-education camps there simply went through the motions. Nobody was seriously tortured or persecuted in severe ways. Nor were the Kazakhs particularly loyal to the Uyghurs. When I asked one camp veteran if there were any disappearances, he said, not among the Kazakhs. And then I asked him, well, what about the Uyghurs? And he said, I only care about the Kazakhs. So the Chinese PSB, seeing a population that was Muslim and spoke a similar language, arrested the Kazakhs anyway. But the Kazakhs had a country. It's a weak country compared to China. But there was also a border, which is key. The Kazakhs had married Uyghurs. So case by case, they had come to form the global majority of camp refugees that have left China. And the lion's share of these refugees were in eastern Kazakhstan, near Almaty. Wives who could be raped, fathers who could be killed. The idea of going in front of CNN's cameras or even doing a voice interview with NPR was basically insane for these people. Most of the refugees needed to be anonymous, and that needed to be guaranteed. And that meant that the researcher or reporter needed to be anonymous while they were in Kazakhstan. No tails, no surveillance, guaranteed. Now, for someone with a publishing history like me, this presented a real challenge. Slide. And there may be several ways to get into Kazakhstan anonymously. I'm not saying my way was the only way, but it worked for me. A generous patron in Germany purchased an out-of-date Toyota, four-wheel drive, no electronic signature. I stopped using the internet on December 3rd, the day I picked up the SUV in Frankfurt. Accompanied by my foster daughter who took these pictures, we drove that vehicle to Kazakhstan. Now on the Caspian Sea ferry, she turned off her internet connectivity, full stop. So at the border, other than a license plate and possibly facial recognition, from an electronic perspective, we disappeared. Now, using a single road map for a country the width of America, we made it into Almaty the day after Christmas. This is me performing a compass check at a very tense moment. Slide. In Almaty, we built an investigative team. I can't show you that team, but what I owe them can't be estimated. Slide. We also worked with Atajur, Kazakh, that means Kazakh Homeland Human Rights. That's Serikjan, the former head on the left, and Beksat, the current head on the right. These are extremely courageous individuals, and they discreetly provided us with camp refugees. Slide. And we interviewed the refugees in a highly secure location. No devices allowed, usually about 4 to 5 hours. Now, literally everyone I interviewed was from a different camp, yet this was the pattern that emerged. There are two kinds of people who leave the camp. The first are young people, about 18 years old on average. They have light hands, they have a good attitude, and the announcement that they're graduating is usually made during lunch. They're the fortunate few who are going to be exploited for their labor at a factory out east. Perhaps even a Western-run factory, as Adrian Zentz has begun to document. Now, the fate of these young people is important, and perhaps it can even be traced. Slide. But the second group is aged between 25 to 35. In fact, the average age is often 28, exactly the age that the Chinese medical establishment endorses for organ harvesting. The organs are mature, but the body is only at the cusp of its long decline. Now, these people are taken in the middle of the night. And there was one last question I needed to ask about people who were taken, usually of women. I would ask as politely as I possibly could, were they sexually attractive? Rape has been a defining characteristic of the Uyghur crackdown, but that's for another talk. Just as politely they would reply, it's not just nice to say this, but no, they were not particularly nice looking. And I would say, how would you describe them then? And one answer I got was, they were healthy. Slide. There were outliers. A couple of witnesses said there were no disappearances. One said 20% of the camp disappeared over the course of a year. But the average was split between 2.5% to 5% disappearances. Some say there are 1 million in the camps. Some say there are 3 million in the camps. It is not weighted. I have not weighted their statements for the size of the camp yet. But my best estimate for minimum disappearances at this time annually, since really from 2017 and into 2019, and assuming 1 million in the camps is 2.5% annual disappearances. Now, in other words, at a minimum, 25,000 human beings disappear from the camps annually. And every one of the people who disappeared is worth over $500,000 to foreign organ tourists if the organs are extracted correctly. Slide. I'm going to conclude here. My process has been improvisational. Although the car is back in Frankfurt, I'm far from sure it is the right way to, this is the right way to go. I suspect that this is a one-trick pony that can't be repeated. But I do know that we've seen enough dancing in the camps. As researchers, we need to assume a measure of the risk, and the world needs to stop asking communists to give us numbers. We need to find the numbers and verify them on our own. The first step in that process is to stop devaluing refugee testimony. And if I understand Victim of Communism's mission correctly, we have a responsibility to the victims as well. And if anyone listening has the means to help, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.